Okay, everybody, welcome to Pro Mindset Pods. This is your host, Craig Domann. I got a very special guest today. I got a special guest every week, but this is a really special guest today. My son, Brock Domann, by way of Dresden, Germany. Brock, welcome to Pro Mindset once again.
Yes, sir. I think this is round 3.
This might be your 3rd edition, bro. You have one of the most popular listened shows ever. So maybe today we'll surpass the previous best.
It's a goal.
Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of introduction, catch everybody up on where you're at, and then I'm gonna pepper you with some questions so you can share with everybody about your German experience. So Brock is right now playing professional football in Germany. Had his first game a couple days ago. Threw for 5 tubbies, no picks. How many? Did you ever get your stats? How many yards did you throw for?
The stats officially come out Wednesday.
Okay, we're talking about German professional football. We get our stats 5 days after the game.
Yep.
Hey, the field's still 100 yards, and by 53 in the third, everything else is the same, but there are some differences between German football and American football in Germany and American football in America.
Definitely a lot of differences. The scoreboard went out in our game.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
That's because you guys were running up the score.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely made you play like it was 0-0.
Gotcha. Okay, so Brock, you finished your collegiate football career at the University of Louisville last fall. You trained and got ready for your next phase in football during the spring, participated in the pro day at Louisville, and then jumped on an airplane to fly to Germany because you'd signed a contract to play for the Dresden Monarchs. Share with us kind of like the biggest shock factor when you found yourself in Germany, waking up in Germany, when you didn't speak the native language. Things are obviously not D1 level in terms of facilities. What was the shock factor the first couple of weeks?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, the sleep schedule. I felt like I had a lot of energy at night and not a lot of energy during the day because we are 8 hours apart, which is just nuts. And then another big shock factor was how everything's a little bit more old-fashioned out here. I'm walking a lot more. I'm biking a lot more. All the conveniences we have in America, yeah, they don't have that here. All the laziness that we don't even realize we partake in America isn't a thing here. So that was a little bit of an adjustment and shock factor of just tripling, quadrupling the steps I get in per day. And then, yeah, definitely not speaking the language isn't too hard because a lot of people know how to speak English. But for the people that don't, it's like disrespectful to them that I'm in their country and they're having to adjust to me. So that's definitely been a big shock and something that I've had to adjust to, that I am a guest to them and I am to respect their.
Hey, do you know any German words yet?
Yeah, I mean, we took some German class. I mean, just like Spanish class, it's hard for it to stick.
What about on the football field? Is there any term that is used in some German word that you recognize when the officials or the coaches or somebody's talking?
Honestly, football is where English is used the most.
Really?
Yeah, because it's American football. I'd say on the football field is where you hear the least amount of German, where it's off the field where you hear all the guys speaking German.
Gotcha. Okay, so you guys had a 5-hour bus ride to your first game on game day. And Mom and I and some family members were tuning in, live streaming at 11 a.m. Mountain Time, which was 7 p.m. your time. And then you had 5 touchdown passes, which is amazing because you've thrown a lot of touchdowns in your life. But I don't know if you've ever thrown 5 touchdowns in a game.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think that was a new feat.
Yeah, I think your PR might be like 4. Maybe in the backyard, playing with your friends, you threw for 5.
For sure. Yeah.
But Independence, Ventura, and Louisville, I don't think so.
No,
Yeah.
no, definitely not. Yeah, it was really cool that I'm a part of an offense that is really pass oriented. The run game really wasn't there, which I don't mind. And I got four really great targets. I got a tight end who's 6'3", who does a great. He had a lot of great service routes to get other people open, and then he's just a solid target. I got a little slot receiver from Spain who just knows how. He's quicker than he is fast, but he knows how to run routes really well. I got two outside guys. One's from England that is a physical deep threat, and then an American that can do it all that also played Division One ball. Having that with then also the combination of a lot of basic coverages from the German league, I felt like it was just the beginning of us tearing up this league.
We talked briefly out after the game outside the bus, and you said you were very excited about the game, but you said there's going to be some things I got to work on. Have you had a chance to look at your film and see what you need to get better at?
For sure. I mean, I've already watched it like 3 times. All week we talked about sliding the protection to the boundary because their main blitz was their will linebacker from the boundary. And on the first, they hadn't shown it in their preseason game, but they blitzed from the field, and I slid the protection to the boundary. So I realized that just because they have a tendency doesn't mean I need to follow it 100%. I still need to see with my own eyes where people are lined up and what gaps are not being filled, because those gaps are going to be the gaps that they blitz, and adjust accordingly. You know, it was good to know that just because you watch film doesn't mean you're going to be right. And it's more so.
After you get knocked on your butt because you had a rusher pretty much coming free, you make adjustments pretty quick.
Definitely. It just reminded me that it's way more important to trust what I see out there than what I saw on film, because it's all about making real-time adjustments. It's all about being in the moment. You know, it's important to watch film, but to let the film go once you're out there and just see what you see. So that was something that I took away from. The other thing is I was on my back foot a lot, and it was beneficial in some cases, and it was not beneficial in others. I think I've grown to learn how to throw off my back foot. I don't know, out of maybe convenience, and then also just if there's rushers in my face, also just like whenever you're throwing the ball around in the backyard or whatever it is, it's a lot easier to just hang on that back foot. So I think I gained a little bit of a habit from that. And also when they're rushing like they were that first drive, I think I naturally was getting on my back foot a little bit too much. Just making sure I stay even with my body and finish my throws. I think is super important. Mainly those two things, and then also just like making more adjustments. I mean, I'm now seeing the game not only from what I could have done as a player, but then also what I could have done as a play caller, because, you know, we get to play in, but then I have the jurisdiction to be, the ability to change the play if I want to. And I made some good checks, and I also didn't make some checks that I should have made. There's a lot to improve on, but ultimately, you know, the biggest improvement comes from week 1 to week 2. So I'm excited.
On the 5 touchdown passes, how many of those were plays that you changed, or were those the plays that were called?
First was called, first touchdown, that's the play that was called. The second touchdown, our American receiver actually came to the sideline and saw he was getting bracketed and wanted to get receiver open unselfishly. So he called that play. That was the corner post that was just wide open in the middle of the field for the touchdown. The third one, 2 of them, the next third and fourth were both me changing the backside route. So I kept the front side the same, but I changed the one-on-one backside. The third and fourth one was that, and then the fifth one was the coach's call. So combination.
Absolutely. Okay, Brock, you're a very mindful person. You're not just a football meathead. You've got a personality and a purpose that's way bigger than football. How have you transferred lifestyle here, where you were doing things like breath work and meditation and journaling and things like that? And how has that shown up in Germany when you got your own room, but you got like 3 or 4 roommates, and it's just different? Are you influencing your environment, or is the environment influencing you?
It's a great question. I think that it's a combination of both. I think when I first got here, my job was to see what type of environment I'm in and be one of the boys and be part of a group. And I think that's so necessary because that's how you gain a bond with your teammates. That's how you gain a connection off the field, so then you can have an even greater connection on the field. So I'd say at first it was definitely them influencing me. But now that I've kind of been here for a little bit, got my feet underneath me, whenever you're working on yourself and you're growing, people are naturally drawn to you. A lot more guys are coming into my room and just hanging out, asking questions. A lot of people ask questions about. I did a breath work session with Scott on the field pregame in the end zone, like some JJ McCarthy shit. And about half the team came up to me, and some people were like super enamored, and other people were like super weirded out. I've learned that it's actually really good to be polarizing because the people that are attracted to what you're about are inspired by you, and the people that don't want to see that part of themselves will repel you.
Well, Scott does a phenomenal job on that breath work, especially remotely. After a 5-hour bus ride, getting ready for your first professional game in a foreign country, people were watching back here. You had some expectations on how you wanted to perform. How
Definitely.
did that reset you? How did that regulate your emotions? How did that show up? How did what you did before the game show up in the game?
Yeah, I had to do a lot of emotion before the game, and what that means is reframing thoughts and emotions that have been coming up. 5-hour bus ride, as you can imagine, I replayed my whole football career in front of my eyes, and parts of it were tears of joy, other parts of it were really sad to remember. And so then I got to the place where I was looking forward into this season, and man, did I put the heaviest of expectations on myself. Perfection came up, and all these natural thoughts and emotions of just wanting to control how it's going to go, how it's going to look, all the things. So I had to do a lot of reframing, and even honestly, the feeling of unworthiness of even when I do well, will people even respect it because of being in the German league? And just having to return back to the whole reason why I was even on that bus, and it's because there was a little boy that saw his dad represent NFL athletes and wanted to go on his own football journey. And of course, I wanted it to look um, a lot differently. But I've learned that suffering comes from not accepting what is. And so I've suffered a great deal in my life because of my own doing, of not accepting where I truly am and always wanting to be somewhere that I'm not. And I felt that creeping up a little bit before the game and feeling unworthy of even if I do well, will it mean anything? And ultimately, all that matters, does it mean something to me? All that matters is in this journey that I'm on, how do I feel about my journey? How do I feel about my football career when it's all said and done, right? I mean, and I've had to let that go because even there's people that think that Tom Brady's not, didn't live up to their own expectations in their heads. So And no matter how much success you have, there's always going to be people that unvalidate it in some capacity. So I had to let that go, and I would say that was probably the biggest hurdle, especially because of growing up always having the standard be the NFL and that level of play.
Totally get it. You said some awesome things there, Brock. In pro mindset, the invincible performance bubble is what you described. In that invincible bubble, it's you and you, and you can't worry about what other people think. You can't feel judgment from other people. You gotta really, it's about you. So think about this: how crazy would it be if you went out and threw 5 touchdowns, and in your head it wasn't enough, and it didn't mean anything? How miserable would it be on that 5-hour bus ride back?
Yeah.
Instead of, like you said, be in the moment, do your thing, let it be what it's going to be, do the best you can. And the Insta crowd just doesn't matter. You know, what people think, how many likes you get, you know, how many people repost it, really doesn't matter.
100%.
Now, if you're an influencer, it might matter to your pocketbook, but for the normal person, it doesn't matter.
No, and it's more about, for me, who I'm becoming, because that's what we get to take with us after this life. I really believe that. The internal makeup, the culmination of the thoughts, feelings, and actions you've taken in your life, I believe really do culminate to something that matters. And so it's less about what you're doing and it's more about how you're doing it, with what energy you're doing it, why you're doing it, all those things. And so I know that this is part of my journey and it's a very crucial part of my journey. And my main goal and the whole reason why I came to Germany is to find out a little bit more about myself. And as you said, I just got done with my collegiate career, and college beat me up, man. Beat me up. And I'm grateful for it, and it was so necessary. But I think there's a lot of things that I've needed to reflect on, and now that I'm in the real world and starting my journey that way, you know, I just think this is such amazing soil that I get to be in, to be able to say who I am now that I'm in the real world and it's up to me. Because a lot of things in college, man, were not under my control. But I'm really seeing how professional football, it's really up to you. It's really up to you. It's back to the way it should be. And it's the best person plays. You know, of course, there's politics and everything, but it really feels like I'm out of that gauntlet of what college football has become. And as we've talked about off this podcast, college football is more toxic than it's ever been. Getting out of that has been amazing. And I think no matter what, this has been such an amazing jumpstart to the rest of my life.
Well, one of the things that's really cool for me as a dad is the idea that what you're doing right now is kind of pay dividends for my grandkids because of the lessons you're learning, the man you're becoming, the mental hurdles that you're overcoming, and the fact that you're reframing how things happened is critical because the NFL beats you up. The real world beats you up. College football definitely beats you up. And you can find yourself in a victim mindset because, you know, if this would have happened or if the coach would have liked me better, wouldn't have brought this guy in or ran a different offense, and we could go on and on and on. Or it's like, hey, it is what it is. This is how I grew from it. This is what I learned from it. This is what I don't want to do again. And move on.
Sure.
Because one of the things that I had an epiphany this week on pro mindset that I had never had before, and that is that we're all broken and we all fail. And after you fail, that's when you need the pro mindset. Where I think a lot of people think you need a pro mindset to get to the pros. Well, you can have a pro mindset and still not get to the pros. But you've got to have a pro mindset to recover and bounce back from adversity when you get knocked down when you get treated unfairly, when you get all these words that describe rejected and overlooked and all that stuff. And so that to me, you all know I've been working on this book for a long time and it's done, but you're living the book.
Yeah, no, for real. And it's a lot easier to read the book than live it.
I'm sure. What's been the most, I'm going to shift gears on you, Brock. What's been the most cool thing that you had no idea when you jumped on the airplane in Louisville to head over to Dresden that you've experienced in the first 6 weeks or so you've been there?
There's honestly such a loyal fan base here. Obviously, it's not the American numbers of just like crazy crowds. It's a smaller bunch, but it's an even more loyal bunch than I think American fans I've had in the past. And there's so much tradition to this club. This club's been around. This is the 32nd season, and it's crazy. Like, I mean, again, we were 5 hours away, but we had a lot of fans travel, and they bring all sorts of bells and whistles and drums and flutes and horns and all sorts of stuff. So, yeah, just how much the Monarchs mean to Dresden is actually a lot. And I had no clue how much they meant to them, obviously, because it's an American football, and I didn't know how big it was, but it's honestly pretty big. So that was a super positive thing that was shocked me. I would say the other thing is just how much America has influenced other countries. I mean, I knew America was a big deal. Yeah, America is really the driving force in a lot of ways. I don't know about the world, but for sure, in a lot of ways, because there's a lot of things that this country's behind in a little bit, but America kind of gave them permission to kind of take that leap forward. And so that's also crazy seeing how, I can be living in another country and it's honestly not as big of an adjustment as I thought it would be. There's a lot of English speaking, there's a lot of just things that are somewhat similar. And it's really cool to see that I feel like I can live anywhere in the world after this experience because, I mean, as long as I got running water and Wi-Fi, I think I'm all right.
For sure. For sure. Okay, Brock, I'm going to open it up to you and say, hey, what would you like to share that you've got going on in the back of your head that, you want me to ask you about? God knows if I'll even ask you. So what is it that you would like to share with our audience about you and your journey and where you're at right now and what you're learning and how you're growing and how you're overcoming?
Yeah. I guess one thing I do want to share is how I think a big block of a lot of people, including myself, has been not wanting to be embarrassed, trying to avoid embarrassment at all costs. And I see that in myself of why the whole reason why I even get nervous before games or having about when I'm at the club and we're dancing or whatever the situation may be. It doesn't have to be football. It can be a plethora of different situations. So many people are in their heads about wanting to control how they're perceived, control the outcome, looking good, looking the way they desire. And when you're in your heart, it's a gamble because it might not be received well. It might not be received in a loving way. And that's the biggest growth edge I've had to work through, obviously, because, last season, I didn't feel like I had to be that vulnerable because I wasn't seen that much. So having a little bit of that vulnerable hangover of like, you're the dude, everyone's watching you, this is your team, this is your squad, you're the captain, like, you're constantly judged and analyzed and perceived by everyone in the community and on the team. And so that desire to not look or to do something is something that I've definitely had to work through. And Actually, one of the biggest things that helped me out was that breath work on the field before. I had my shades on, and as Scott was talking through, what exercises we were going to do, I had my eyes open with my shades on, but obviously no one could see. And I was looking at all these people about to watch me do breath work. And so I kind of did some shallow breathing at first because I was kind of scared to like actually be seen in it. And then I finally let go and I let myself just go ham on the breath work, knowing that, I was being looked at and just sitting in that discomfort. I felt invincible afterwards of just like, I don't care what I'm perceived as. Like, this is how I go. This is how I be. You either like it or you don't, and that it is what it is. And so from then on, I mean, I don't even remember the crowd. I don't remember caring about anyone else's perception after that. And that's why we went and kicked their ass and had 5 touchdowns, was really just honing in on what actually matters. And that's a very difficult thing to do. And I think it's increasingly more difficult than even your generation or the generation before you because of all the distractions that we have nowadays.
Well, I think with social media, with filters and with redos and edits and whatnot, sometimes people won't post anything because they make 25 different adjustments to some video or some picture and they can't get it right. So they don't post it. Where when you were doing it live in the end zone on a football field with an open sky and dudes that maybe haven't ever seen you do breath work before, and for those of you that don't know breath work, it's just a breathing exercise that kind of regulates you, that gives you clarity of your mind, in your mind. You would naturally wonder what they're thinking.
Right.
You are the leader of the team. You are QB1, and you need them to be connected to you. And you might have had a little bit of fear that it might hurt your connection with your teammates. Brock's nodding his head yes for those people that are listening and not watching.
So is there an audio of this and a video of this?
Yeah, there's both. So this will be on YouTube, and then it will be on all the different news and audio.
Awesome.
So you flip me off, and people can't see it.
So give me a couple more questions. I got about 10 minutes, and then I need to go. But I always think that we have a lot of great stuff to share that people need to hear.
Absolutely. What has been the thing? What is the routine system that you've refined or up-leveled or elevated since you've been in Europe? That you couldn't do here because you had too many distractions, too many habits, too many friends, all those type of things, where you get over there. And when you got off the plane in Dresden, you could be anybody you wanted to be. You could be the same Brock. You could be a better version of Brock. You could be a worse version of Brock in all areas of your life. So what systems or standards did you up-level in the last 6 weeks?
That's a great question. I think the biggest thing I did was connect with that inner dreamer in me that got really realistic or pessimistic over the years. And I think just learning how to better look at things when it comes to my day-to-day. So I used to get so upset with myself about, well, I didn't perfectly follow everything I wanted to do today, and realizing that actually everything we do in some way serves us, or we wouldn't do it. We wouldn't do it. Even if it's bad for us, we still, like you drinking Dr. Pepper, it's not necessarily good for you in the long run, but in the moment, it serves your taste buds. That's why you do it. Like, it's like we do absolutely everything. In some way, it benefits a part of us. And so just being more graceful with why I do certain things and seeing what parts of me that serve. Going back to the victim, there's been parts of me I've seen where it serves that inner victim inside of me. And the victim, it feels good to feel sorry for yourself. So when you feel sorry for yourself, again, it still serves you in some way. And so I would say that would probably be the biggest thing that, the system, maybe the thought system that I've had has been the biggest thing that's changed, because, you can pray and ask for a lot of things in life, but what I've learned is the greatest thing you can pray and ask for is just a shift in perception of your life. Because circumstances change a lot slower than your mindset around them can. So I've learned that circumstances are going to change when they're supposed to, and that's on God's timing. But the best thing I can do to put myself in the best position, just for overall mental health and happiness, is learning how to view them in a greater light and with more love. And so that's the main thing I'm focused on, is just my perception of life.
Rock, I think one of the things I've learned the last couple of years is the idea that if I change one thing about me, how I do things or how I think about how I do things, or about perhaps how I think about myself, I change everything. So what happens is, if you want something to change in your environment or your circumstances, that's wonderful. But if you change something about you or your thought process, you change everything else. Everything else changes. Your filter, your perception, everything changes about how you see things. Maybe how a coach talks to you, or how a friend responds to you, or how you look in the mirror, or whatever it might be. If you just change a little bit about you, I know that sounds crazy, but you could think you're better looking. That'd be a cool thing, right? You might think you're smarter. Or, hey, as a football player, you might think, hey, I can control the game better. So instead of getting upset at my offensive lineman for not protecting, doing a great job in pass protection, focus on making a faster read, thinking quicker, and he didn't have to block as long.
Right.
Or throw the ball to the receiver in a better catching radius, and you don't have to worry about him if he doesn't have any hops. He doesn't need them.
100%. Exactly. Just taking ultimate accountability and responsibility for your life. And it's very difficult, because if you look at the outer world, there's a lot of things that are telling you otherwise. So it's, again, it's difficult, but remembering that it's always an inside-out game. And I think we're primed, all of us, to make it an outside-in game. And that's just not how it works. I have a question for you, though. You have a book coming out. You got Pro Mindset podcast that you've been doing for a long time, but now you've got a physical book copy. What are you most excited about, for yourself and for the audience of listeners and readers, for this book coming out?
Well, I think it's to kill the myth that a pro mindset is going to make you a pro. What pro mindset is about is, it's a mental shift that allows you to be your best in your biggest moments. And so all of us have big moment failures, where we were interviewing for a job and we didn't get it. We're hoping to be first team and we ended up being second team. I could go on and on and on. But when we have those moments of failure, is when you really look in the mirror to go, what could I have done differently? What went wrong? What could I have done better? How did I get screwed? What did some coach think that you shouldn't have thought? All those kind of things. And the pro mindset framework is designed, and you use a lot of my words, maybe I use your words, but it's like, you've got to reframe your identity, because you attract who you are. I want to thank everybody for joining in today. Brock, by way of Dresden, Germany. Can I get to go over and let you play some games here in a month or so? I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the Pro Mindset book. I'm excited for you to listen to it or read it. I know you're in it. And most importantly, I'm excited about the opportunity for growth that you have as a young man in his 20s to be anybody you want to be any given day, and experiment with what is going to work for you. What worked for me may not work for you. What worked for your brother may not work for you. But what worked for you may not work for us either. But it's like, you get to really refine the man you're becoming. And you also get to have fun playing some ball.
Literally.
And we don't know where this is going to go. I mean, it could be you throw 5 touchdowns every week and you get an opportunity to move up and move out. Maybe a different path. I don't know. But I'm just kind of excited to see what happens with your future in ball, but most importantly, outside of ball.
Yeah, it's been an absolute honor and blessing that I can't describe. Being able to play this game at a high level, the joy that it brings me. Yeah, you can't put a price tag on that.
That's awesome. Brocky, hang on just for a second to make sure this gets up